and it's summer transfer season across the Canadian Premier League. We're already seeing some teams, uh, do some shopping, be quite busy. We've seen a lot of returns, is one thing already. We mentioned Gauthier Antigny coming back, as well as Ayman Salouf. Pacific, they bring back their all-time leading goal scorer, and Alejandro Diaz. We talked a bit about that last week. Vancouver as well, they bring in Hugo Mbong, and we see York United bring in Lionel Lopez, a player with significant Liga MX experience. Alex, you touched a little bit on how that's been, kind of that Liga MX mentality has been important for them this season. So they add a guy who has a lot of that. Just from the transfers you've seen so far, what have you liked about these signings, and how big of an impact can some of these players make over the back half of the season for these clubs?
Yeah, it's always, good to see just kind of teams target areas of need. I think, Pacific with Diaz was a great example of you need a striker, you get a striker who's familiar with your system. York's a young team, we kind of forget in a sense, and bringing in just some more experience to that group's going to, only make them more savvy, more, veteran heavy cavalry, kind of like we mentioned. They're in an attacking slump, and you bring two of the best the CPL has ever seen. I think that there's something to be said about this mid-season transfer window. It's always great because you know what you are at this stage, and you know what you have to play for. So it allows you to fill some holes. And I think this always pushes the level up, and this will push some of the teams that have maybe been less active to get going. I think there's a few that we can look at that have some holes in their roster that want to address.
Yeah, certainly. And, as I said, a bit of a trend we've seen, not just this year, but in kind of recent years, is, maybe some players moving around the league or returning to the CPL. You look at, a Saluf and Insigni kind of in this window. Alex, if you were to pick a player and a team that you think could return to the CPL and really make an impact at this point, is there a guy who you would in obviously a fantasy land, who you'd really like to see come back to the league, and who would be a big impact for a club?
Yeah, it's always a big question. So lots of ways to go with this. For me, I immediately thought of one. It's Lucas McNaughton. I think he's one where he's done well in MLS, but he's struggled with injuries the last few years, moved clubs, and just injury troubles have kind of dogged him. And there's a lot of teams in this league that could use a center back. So I would, if anything, say I'd find it hard to hone in on one team. If we're going to stick with the theme, Pacific did just lose a defender recently. Are very light on defenders. It's been homecoming season there. Bustos, Diaz, Chung, Hurd, Young. They've got a bunch of their guys together from that 2021 team. May as well bring McNaughton in, right, if he's available and ready. So I would just go something like McNaughton to Pacific and continue that. But no, I think that's what I'd go with.
What about a same player? What about Lucas McNaughton to York United? I know he went to school at
Mm.
University of Toronto, and they could use a center back. Honestly, I think they could use one more. It's interesting now with Lopez coming in, because again, you could push Atakubi further back. We know he's played in that back three, but anytime you have a back three, I like to have different options there. And Lucas McNaughton next to Stirring, like, man, that would take that team to another level.
I like that. No, I think York as well could use that center back depth. Guy who knows that pitch, I'm pretty sure, decently after playing in the CPL and of course playing in U Sports. I mean, there's a few. I mean, even Ottawa, we feel like they're going to be kicking tires on a defender. Diego Me actually said last week that they're going to sign a midfielder and a defender, a center back. So they're going to sign him. It'd be quite funny if it does end up being a guy like McNaughton, a vet, because he mentioned it was kind of like a veteran defender to come help, fill the hole of an Amir Didic. Well, McNaughton at one point, him and Didic were right up there in terms of top center backs in this league. So that'd be a pretty darn good replacement there too.
Yeah, it certainly would. And as we said, keep your eyes peeled across CPL, OneSoccer, all of the channels, because we do expect more transfer movement. As we said, Diego Mejia hinting at some there, but I assume a fair few clubs are going to want to make some moves with how competitive things are, and with some clubs obviously already shifting things around and wanting to kind of change their fortunes over the second half of the season. So keep your eyes peeled. This is kind of a fun part of the season where teams bring in reinforcements, and sometimes we've seen those players really change the trajectory of a season. So Um, this could be a really interesting point in this year's campaign, obviously.